Hey, it's Andrew Downs. I'm proud to support Three Beards Media, and I would love to work with you. If you need merchandise for your company, organization, band, softball team, whatever, I can help. From name brand apparel to promotional items, large orders or small, online stores, and more, I can help your brand stand out. AKC Marketing is local, based in Johnston, and we are an employee-owned business, so our costs are low and our turnaround times are fast. But most importantly, we give you personal service to make sure you get exactly what you're looking for. Email me at andrew@akcmarketing.com or find me on social media, and let's make some cool stuff together. Now sit back and enjoy this Three Beards Media podcast.
Red and gold on the edge of the sky, feel the rumble, hear the battle cry. Out in Ames where the storms ignite, we don't back down, we rise and fight. Jack Tri-State's name, yeah, it echoes strong. A story of honor still marches on. Through the rain, through the pain, through the fire we roar. 'Cause we were built to thrive in the eye of the storm. Feel the ground shake, hear the crowd roar. Cyclone power, can't take no more. Legends rise, this is our norm. We stand tall in the sigh of the storm. There's a cyclone blowing on the outskirts tonight. Jack Trice shakes when the team takes flight. Milton's rocking, hear the magical. We rise together, we'll never fall. Feel the magic you can't deny. Marcus Stars are taking off straight to the sky. Brick, big play, Kirby making history. When the moment gets tough, that's a cyclone wave. Through the trenches, through the lane, through the heat, through the rain. When the storm comes blowing, we embrace the fight. 'Cause the cyclones strike when the time is right. Feel the cyclones strike when the time is right.
All right, welcome back to the Side of the Storm, where we talk all things Cyclones. We are live from the AKC Marketing Studio with Andrew Downs and sponsored by Revelton Distilling Company out of Osceola, Iowa, and Dan Douglas with Green Beret Realty. I'm Dave Larson here with my Storm Team partner and Cyclone Great, the legend Marcus Fizer. And Marcus, we're going to have Mr. Vintage join us here shortly. He's on his way back from a meeting. How are you
Yes,
tonight?
sir. Doing well. It's warming up out here in Vegas. It's kind of hot, matter of fact. But
Hey, my friend.
dealing with that.
We had close to 70 today, so tell me how warm it is. How was your pool time last weekend?
It was a lot colder than what it is now, but now it's getting warmer, and more and more people trying to come around and get in pools and stuff like that. So
Vegas is a busy place. I had some friends out there here, I think last weekend themselves, that were taking some photos and that I recognized. Tonight want to do a little bit of end of season wrap with basketball, talk a little bit of football, and we had that effing portal scare this past weekend. We can talk through as well. First, that Houston, Florida game on Monday night for the national championship game, the Big 12 versus the SEC. Florida comes back from 12 down. Houston, that last possession, ouch, could not get off a shot. Florida beats the Cougars 65-63, and really was a pretty good game to watch, fun game to watch. What were your thoughts on that? And believe it or not, this is Houston's 7th trip to the Final Four. Every time that they've been there, they have lost to the eventual champion. How remarkable is that?
Sucks. Yeah, that really sucks. It was a very entertaining game to watch. From top to bottom, I think Houston controlled the game pretty much all the game. They had a good game plan, defensive game plan for Clayton Jr. It worked for the most part.
He didn't get his first basket until 10 minutes left in the game. I think his first points didn't come until with 15 minutes left in the game.
Yeah, and then that whistle started to blow a little bit. They got a little momentum, and things turn around. But very unfortunate. Very painful to see. Emmanuel Sharp. At the end of the game, he's the son of one of my ex-pro teammates. His dad and I played together over at Maccabi Tel Aviv. So I've known Emmanuel, his brother DJ, since they were kids, like little babies, and to see them grow up and have collegiate careers and Emmanuel on this stage and this level. Like I never even made it to that point. And so a lot of people are, giving him a lot of flack and things like that. I personally think he should have touched the ball after he decided to, come down with it. It's just a bang play. He tried not to get it blocked, but once he was off the ground and knew it was going to be a violation, it wasn't enough time on the clock to, seal it off for your teammates to come get it. If he touched it, I think it's like 4 seconds left. If he touched it, it's an instant violation. They take the ball out, you foul, and give yourself another chance, at the end with 2 or 3 seconds left. So that's extremely unfortunate, to say the least, to go down like that.
My big beef, Marcus, is he's a good player. We've seen him play in the Big 12, and he's a guy that everybody would want on their team, right? He's good, heady guy, plays smart. The challenge on that final play is if you're going to shoot with authority. If it gets blocked, it gets blocked. But if you're going up, shoot the ball or give a ball fake, let the guy fly by and shoot it. But you got to go in there with a little bit of gunk, knowing that this is it. This is ball game.
Well, I think it all goes in together to not knowing how much time is left, but knowing it's just a small amount. I don't think he didn't shoot it because he was scared of it getting. If it got blocked and goes into a turnover, then that's worse. I guess he felt like if he could put it down and he had teammates around and somebody could come get it, that's better than getting it blocked and it going the other way. So it's a lot that's going on at that moment. I totally get it.
But at least the referee may call a whistle. At least if you shoot it and it does get blocked, there's also a chance that you get called up for a foul too, the way that those guys are blowing the whistle.
Right. I think he had enough time to get it off because I think Clayton is the one that contested it, but he jumped to the side. So it was one of those wacky things that, these kids are kids. I probably made a lot of bonehead plays during that time and, playing ball as well. So it's just unfortunate, man. I'm looking forward to, my young guy, Milo Uzer, to bring back the championship here to Vegas. And then the young fella, Tugler, is from close to my area back home in Louisiana. And I have strong, love and affinity for Coach Sampson for playing against him so many years and seeing him fight for so long to get to that point and to have it taken away like that.
He was coach at Oklahoma when you were playing, right? Okay.
Right. He was coach at Oklahoma my first 3 years, my only 3 years or whatever. But, we had some battles. Never won down at Oklahoma. Got him, of course, at the Hilton. But we had a lot of good and great battles, and I know what kind of coach he is. Thomas Watkins, my best friend Thomas Watkins, we saw the clips online of them diving for the loose balls or whatever in practice, the rolling. And Tom was like,
I
no, not to us.
You and asking, that looked like some of your practices or
that's
what you have said.
That's what Thomas said. Thomas said, they look familiar. I said, man, that's an everyday practice thing for us. Like we're so used to it. And that's why that team was so tough. And it's so good to see them play so well. Like a lot of people thought, I had Florida winning it because of their firepower. Coach Sampson, they really put a defensive scheme out there that really took that away, and it shows, to the coaching acumen that they have, and it's just they couldn't sustain it or whatever at the end, and they lost a close one.
Yeah, and defensively, Houston, the tempo really played to their strengths, and you kind of felt like they were wearing them down, and when they got up by 12, I thought this could turn ugly quick. Houston has some firepower where it comes in bunches. Usually when it comes in bunches, they're like that python where Houston will come out and get up by 12 or 15, and then they close it on you, close your throat, and that's the end of the game. And that could be 5 minutes into the first half. So when they got up in the second half, I really thought, oh, here we go. They're squeezing that neck a little bit. But kudos to Florida. They made the plays. They came back. Yes, the referee started calling a tighter game, a little bit of foul trouble. but they had, 3 fouls in a 7-second period. It became a little bit of a different game in that second half.
Yeah, I knew in the national championship game it wasn't, they was going to have some kind of kryptonite for that Python grip that they had to loosen it up a little bit. And with the firepower that Florida has, they was going to do a lot of things to turn it around. And at any rate, I like to see a competitive game for it to be really, really close at the end like that, no matter what. But it was a good game overall. Like I said, I have Florida winning it for what I've seen from them all year, but definitely was pulling for Houston to ink that one out and bring it back to the Big 12.
And the legend has joined us, or excuse me, Mr. Vintage has joined us, Brent.
He's still a legend. He's still a legend.
That's it. One day. One day.
I don't want to confuse the two of you between legend and vintage.
That's it. Marcus is a true legend on here. I'm just a vintage. I'll take the vintage. What I missed?
We were just talking about the national championship game on Monday and the loss by the Cougars. Of course, Marcus again called it right with the Florida Gators coming out on top. Marcus, you really need to get into scouting.
Well, I mean, I've reached out to a few. I'm not going to say a few names. I guess my expertise is not needed at the moment, but it's definitely welcome if it ever happens or crosses someone's mind. I know a little bit about basketball.
Somebody need to tap in, man. I was just going for the gut with the home team in hopes.
Well, being a Houston native, what did you think of the game, Brent?
So, be completely honest, I saw the first half, and then I was asleep the second half.
Okay.
I'll be out. Like, hey,
no, that's late for
3
you.
o'clock alarm come off, man. I'm trying to get in bed by 8. At 8 o'clock, I'm trying to at least have my feet up and touch it, rubbing my toes together because that means I'm comfortable. But yeah, so I woke up to see it. I mean, I literally turned over, the alarm went off, popped open ESPN, like, what happened? And I was like, no. Saw all the Florida stuff, but
So do you wake up the mornings and go, oh my God, that side of the storm chain. Look at all these text messages that these guys were talking about last night.
Yep.
I'm so glad I missed that.
I see, damn, they was busy last night. That's what I'll see.
It was good to be able to see the Big 12 continue to have strong representation in the Final Four in the Big 12. It's one of those conferences we do continue to play, regardless of the game. We do continue to play in the toughest conference in the nation. While the SEC, what they had, 14 teams, you would think that they would have had a little bit of a stronger finish, but nonetheless, it was the team with or the league with just 7 that was in the Big 12, along with the SEC that had just 1 team out of 14. So that kind of puts a wrap on the basketball season. However, we had some news coming out of Ames over the weekend that left a lot of us Cyclone fans shaking our fists at the NCAA. Came to learn that at least one SEC school, without naming names, but down south, had reached out to Mr. Joshua Jefferson about the potential of joining them. And I know we talked about this ad nauseum, but it feels like tampering. I know it's not tampering because of the way that the rules have set up. But, we're talking about a guy that had said he was coming back, who is not actively in the portal. Again, the rules are the rules. That doesn't stop anyone from reaching out to the agents that are really the mess, along with the NCAA. And we talked about the fact that the NCAA really needs to put some rules around this because it's getting annoying. This is no longer NIL. This is truly pay for play. As former athletes, we've talked about this, but Jefferson is the key cog in next year's team. If we're going to have a serious run, whether it's the Big 12 championship, and I think there's a serious opportunity for a Final Four with the talent that's there and the guys that are coming in. Jefferson to me I love his game. He passes. He rebounds, strong rebound, as summer camps had shown, and he's a scorer too. He's well rounded. He does it all. Does he need to score all the time? No, he doesn't. So he'll pass, and he's a smart player too. He doesn't turn the ball over. But what were your thoughts when you heard the news coming out of Ames that maybe there's some activity going on behind the scenes involving other schools chasing after Joshua Jefferson?
Well, like I said before, I think the NCAA really, messed this up. Like they tried to go for so long about not addressing the elephant in the room, and when the elephant became inside of the room, they still prolonged it while Ed O'Bannon and some of the other guys worked towards moving towards that goal. Had they adjusted then things would be a whole lot different. Now it just seems like, the kids are greedy, trying to get money. You got agents. It's just all up in the air because, the agents aren't really agents. They're just people that are speaking on. You don't have to take no tests. You don't have to get certified. Like I've, spoken to actual agents to get versed on what this whole NIL and collective deals and all that is about. You just got, old AAU coaches popping up talking about their kids' agents. So it's just ridiculous of what's going on. There's no real contracts being signed in terms of what you contractually obligated to do with an agent, without an agent. The whole being able to talk to the kids, tampering. It has to be. You have to clear the lines up so it can run a lot more smoothly. I didn't know that it wasn't, like you said, he wasn't even actively in the portal. At least it has to be at least something down the lines of him being actively, or a player actively being in a portal in order for you to be. So when you don't, get everything in order and in line and, sweep it up under the rug, then it turns into that, molehill until a mountain. And now as everyone's who's on the outside don't know. And anything that you're dealing with young athletes making a lot of money is going to be a lot of talk about what's going on. You see it with Caitlin Clark. You see it with, Angel Reese and all the rest of them. It's just so much that's going on that something needs to happen. I mean, they should have took during the COVID year to figure it out, but they didn't. And now we're still dealing with, what we got to deal with now.
Hey, Brent, how would you go about coming up with a resolution on this? Again, you come from a unique perspective you've got a son that has entered his first year. You are a former player. Now, granted, you didn't play under these same rules where you had a transfer portal or NIL. And again, it's not even NIL at this point. It truly is pay for play.
Right.
Brent, what are your thoughts on how would you come about a resolution with something like this?
Yeah, I mean, it's tough, man. I guess because the landscape of college is so different. So I guess trying to create some parameters around them kind of sticking with the coaches that they come in with, I guess. So if I'm recruited by Coach Mack gets fired. Well, now I have the ability to hire, right? If I have an opportunity to move up. So if I'm starting in the Southwestern Conference, if I'm starting SWAC, I get a chance to go now to the Big 12, Big 10. I should have an open availability to make that jump. Now, if we're like in the Big 12 and we going from like the one kid, Hunter kid that went from Ames to Texas, right. I don't know. I feel like there should be a waiting period. Like you can't leave us and go play right away. Like you got to sit down. You got to kind of, you got to prove yourself something. But it's something in those lines. I just think that these guys can wear one uniform this year and another one the next year and the year after that. Like there has to be either a level up or it's time to get out type of thing. There should be a cap. You get so many years to play. I like the idea Marcus talked about with, young guys taking a chance going to the league, right? Working out with teams, seeing if they get a draw. And if they don't get drafted or picked up, well, I still got these years of eligibility. I can play my college career out and then develop. And I think in those instances, when they do come back, now you got to stay at one school. That's my personal thing. Because like if you've already went pro, now you're saying these schools are going to pick you because you went there. Well, now I want to go somewhere where I know I'm going to be developed to be a pro. You know what I mean? So, I mean, it's just so tricky. Like, because, you know, a lot of these college coaches, the tenure isn't that long. You know what I mean? Like, you're talking guys staying in one program for 10 to 12 years, and they're like, man, this is the longest tenured coaching, you know, in history, right? Versus, you know, these guys are getting fired in, 6 games. They'll give us a coach a season and a half to get it right. And if they don't, well, there's a new young guy we want to replace it with. So, I mean, it's so tricky, man, but, you know, contracts in play, kids stay with one coach. Like, I like the old development, but if you're not moving up, I mean, I think you should stay put some kind of way.
And to, you know, carry on from there, like, you got to understand also that a lot of these kids are that's in the portal aren't just in the portal because they're trying to level up. You got some of these kids that are in the portal that's forced into the portal because we want so it's, you don't hear that part. You only hear, oh, he's just trying to get, or people just assuming he's just trying to get more money. They're just trying to get more money. And it's just, that's what they're not addressing. And if for the NCAA, it's, you just think it's the student athletes and not on us. We're going to stay behind the scenes and keep making our billions until we're going to let y'all figure that out.
Well, and some of those kids, too, are looking at it as, you know, basketball season just ended. So Otzelberger sits down, and I'm sure this happens on football side, too. You sit down with your athletes and you talk through, here's what happened. Here are things that I liked about this season. Here are things that I really think you need to work on. Here's where I see you next year and in the years beyond. And so you lay out a plan of attack. And in some cases, I'm sure those discussions lead to honest discussions about your future, maybe not being here, but better off somewhere else. And so I get that. I think the frustration as fans is you got someone like a Joshua Jefferson who, again, in my view, is he's a key cog. I think he is the most important person on that roster for next season. And then, you know, he's looking at being actively recruited. And I know the money is big. The money's out there, and you guys didn't necessarily have that same opportunity. And we've got Matt here that's making a comment on Facebook, or excuse me, on X, wondering if Pfizer could have gotten $3.5 million in NIL money. And again, this is pay for play at this point at this level, but I think that's legitimate. You know, when you're a student athlete and you have a chance to make $3 million, I mean, a lot of us are not going to make $3 million in the course of our career. And so for a kid like that at 2022 to make 3.5, I don't blame them. It's just that those are the rules. And like both of you had said, that's what the NCAA has done because of their lack of foresight, their lack of enforcement. Hell, they'll enforce a kid for going out and getting a hotel from a booster, but they won't enforce things like this where you've got a kid that's not even in the transfer portal. It's just a terrible mess. It really is.
Yeah, it is. Yeah, it is. And I mean, I don't know what my valuation would have been back then.
Well, but you put the Marcus Pfizer of 2000 in this season.
Yeah.
Oh,
I bet you're close to that.
It'd be well over that for sure. but that definitely keeps you, because I mean now guys aren't even really, you don't hear the pros being talked about as much as you used to before. And, you know, with Josh's skill set and everything that he has, I think he's a pro without a doubt. Even if it's the NBA, not in the NBA, you still could make great money overseas or in the NBA. But if I can make $3.5 million while I'm still in college, then I'm going to stay in college. You know, like I said, the whole story with my parents' house burning down, and that's why I eventually left. If $3.5-4 million was on the table, you think I would have been? The fans wouldn't have to chant one more year. If I could have got another COVID year out in 2000, a COVID year would have been played. You know, with that kind of money, and I'm still being a kid and in school, you know, while I'm, you know, maturing and learning up. So why not do that?
So I'm not smart enough to put out a survey on X or on Face or on YouTube, but if there's anyone that's watching or listening, Brent, I would set your bar at I got to think your value again, the Brent Curvey of the early 2000s in today's game, the way that you would clog that middle and just you were busting people up in the middle and you were so versatile to be able to move around and so athletic. I would think you would be quarter mil. Would that be maybe even too low?
I feel like that, given what I hear with numbers and some of these guys are getting, yeah, I definitely. I'd probably make under $1 million, but I'd be over. I'd probably be at about a half, I would think.
I would think so too. I
Some
could
of the
not argue
valuations
with that.
I've heard with some of these players, but like, yeah, bro, there's no way.
All right, so I think this is Chris on the Bluebeards Media that's supposed to.
I knew it
He's
was
going to put out a poll for us.
I knew that was coming.
We're just not smart enough to figure it out.
I knew that was coming.
But I appreciate you two because I think back in the day I looked at it as these guys are getting a free education, but then you learn through the years too that how much you guys are going to class, you're going to study, you have preparation outside of the season, during the season, where you're putting in 50, 60 hours a week, just football activities, plus the school. It is more than a full-time job. And while your room and board and your education, there is a value there, certainly what you bring in from a fan's perspective and merchandising perspective, yeah, I can appreciate now in today's game that the players are paid. $3.5 million is an awful lot, and us as fans, we're paying for it. And again, I don't blame the athlete. It's the NCAA that has just created this hot mess, and they have mucked it up, and they don't seem to be wanting to fix it anytime soon. And literally and figuratively, the fans are now paying for it.
Yeah, that's just where we're at right now. And you really can't tell or even say, where there's going to be an answer to any of it. It's going to have to be some. Do you say salary cap? It's going to have to be some kind of cap or something.
So
year experience or something.
That's a good point. So there is this NIL cap of 21 million. I've heard with the agreement that's coming out
per program.
So that 21 million has to be split across all sports.
Gotcha.
And so some schools, you could put 20 million of that 21 all into football, which means you've got $1 million left for everything else.
Mm-hmm.
You could split it out. And so maybe half of it goes to football. The other half is split. There's different ways to slice that pie. And so you look at it, maybe these basketball only schools, well, guess what? Basketball only schools may get 20 million, of which the 1 million is split elsewhere. So if you think of Creighton men's basketball would get $20 million, just hypothetically.
Easy.
While the Iowa State men's basketball, maybe they only get 5 because we're putting a lot more into football and into women's basketball. So right there, you're going to have discrepancy. This is just a mess that the NCAA has created. So you're going to have that cap. And right now, a lot of these schools, particularly in the SEC, because there are no rules, they've got a lot of extra NIL cash to spend. And so they're treating it almost like that sign-on bonus and saying, here's a bunch of money up front that we're going to get you. Just come to the school. We'll give you all this money up front. And then the new rules will kick in July, August, whenever the NIL space comes into play, which again isn't really NIL. This is truly pay for play. The NIL is you show up and you go to the car dealership and you do different commercials, or you go to the nonprofits, and that's NIL because they're using
that's the
your
name,
name,
image, and likeness, right?
Exactly.
So like now it's the ignorance of the nation just not knowing and everything being slid up on the NIL. I had to explain to someone the other day, because I did a little research on it. I don't know, it's probably Chat GPT or something, but they said it's only like a few athletes, maybe Shador, Travis Hunter, I think Juju Watkins, only a few athletes that actually had NIL deals, and the rest is all under the collectives that's been brought up. So it's something that I feel like they're hiding behind. They're allowing it to happen. One thing that I think you got to look out for those Texas teams, because it's some money in Texas. It's especially Texas A&M and down there in that area where, come on now. So I know they're looking forward to trying to figure that out, because if it's it's not going to be too many more championships going, in sports that's not going to pass through Texas with all that money, and they're able to pay kids now. So I know that's something that's on the NCAA mind, and they're trying to figure out what they can do. But at this moment, it's like, you get it, you go on.
There's so one of my good friends, man, one of my best friends I grew up with, his son plays baseball at UT. So he plays at Texas. And I was like, oh man, that's dope. I'm sure he's getting paid. He said, oh no. He said, shit, I'm paying for his apartment right now. He's a baseball kid on scholarship. He was like, I don't know, like the number 2 outfielder in the state of Texas. And
they've won championships there in Texas.
Yeah. So my boy, his son, he said, man, he turned down a $500,000 contract to go to college and play baseball, in hopes that obviously, his stock would rise and do all of that stuff. And he's like, yeah, the NIL, football gets the bulk of it. So I think he said like,
I bet you, especially there.
Yeah, 70-80% is football, and it's like 10 basketball, and then the rest of the sports get the rest. Like they split it up amongst them. So he's like, yeah, don't think it's all of that. And I was like, well, damn, hearing it firsthand, you know what I'm saying, with somebody on the other side, where baseball does really well still at Texas, because they're in the SEC now, and LSU was there all the time in the College World Series, and Texas shows up too. So it's just crazy to hear it, but that's how they split it up. It's all about who's bringing in the most money.
Yep.
Yeah.
And I'm sure Iowa State's going to be the same way, right? I mean, the sports that are bringing in the money is going to get, they're going to get the dollars. Now, I wonder though, with the Texas schools, they're not exactly known for having a tremendous amount of integrity. I kind of wonder out loud that, I'm sure this is going to get posted somewhere, but you're going to have the NIL dollars that are being channeled, whether you call it NIL or whatever they're going to call it, that's going to be channeled to the athletes as a part of the 21 million. And then I wonder if there's going to be some of the under the table dollars that will be given
like the
out.
Pony Express. Like the old Pony Express.
The old SMU days. Exactly.
Right.
I mean, every school is going to have that though. Like every school is going to have boosters, and they've had it for years. And that's the reality is that's who's been fronting these collectives anyway. At every school, it's all the boosters that are paying all of this money, right? So if now you're giving them a cap, well, now we have to give a little less so we can only focus on the guys we really want now. So we have so much money that you guys budget that, and then if we want this star quarterback, we want this star point, this star center, then we'll make sure that they get the money that they, want to be here.
Right.
No, we have to give a little less of the monitor given, and because before it was all hey, but now it's hey, and then a little bit of the hey is still there in the background. Yeah. It's like, it's going to even it's definitely going to balance out.
Yeah, them handshakes with some money and that was all right.
I never got one. Never got one.
Come here, star quarterback. I need you to just wax my car. And if you find a little something underneath the car seat, go ahead and take it with you.
Right. If you press that button and happen to press the brake, it may start up.
Yeah.
And if it start up and it starts rolling, hey, I won't report it stolen.
That's it.
So,
All right,
fun
so
times.
I want to jump to women's basketball. I had some news coming out of Ames. Kelsey Jones has joined Lily Hansford in the transfer portal. Now her stats will show that I think she averaged 5 points a game this season, but she really secured that final starting spot that was in question after Kenzie Hare's injury towards the latter half of the season, maybe the last 10 games or so. And she really earned that starting role. I felt like she had really provided a spark and was shooting the ball fairly well. And she had a lot of intensity overall as a player, which I think from a Ariana Jackson perspective resembled some of the things that she was doing. So sad to see that take shape. And sometimes you see a player that's jumped into the portal, you get it, right? They don't see much playing time. The writing's on the wall. For her, I really felt like she had a bright future. So hopefully she has a change of heart, because we talked last week about Jada Williams coming in, transferring in from Arizona. And really the expectations for me are huge for that women's basketball team. And so it's really tough to see a player like that leave. I don't know. Did you guys see, I think it was UCLA. They lost their entire class of 2024 recruiting class. They all exited or are signed up through the transfer portal.
From this past season?
Yeah. UCLA, who made it to were they in the championship game or Final Four?
Final Four.
Final Four.
Crazy.
Did the coach leave?
No, the coach is still
That's
there.
crazy.
Yeah. So we're not taking the entire team, but just that one class, or 4 or 5 players. None started, but each of them left, and so you're talking about an entire recruiting class gone in one swoop.
Oh wow! I mean, it's easier to happen now. Like it's, even as we talk about this whole transfer portal thing, like. I think it would slow them down if they had to sit, because if it's the coach leaves and goes to another team, okay, that's the caveat that allows you to be able to. But just okay, good season. Let me go to to Arizona State now because it's warmer there, and I don't want to be in Maine no more. That type thing like that. Make them sit because, like I said, like. I never thought about transferring after Tim Floyd left, and one of the biggest things were because I would have to sit out a year, and so I was like, no, I'm trying to hoop, and if I'm trying to hoop and I'm trying to play, and we're trying to build this thing here, I'm not trying to be set back. Being a kid that had to sit my freshman year moving from Detroit to Louisiana, I'm not trying to do that again. So I was like, nah, but if you do that now, I guarantee you to slow down some of the steam of the portal.
Yeah.
Or if the players are forced to transfer, like by the coaches, right. Trying to, because I mean when Deion first came, he said a lot of y'all
luggage, baby.
go ahead and jump in the portal now. I would advise you know who you are. Go ahead and jump in the portal now. So if it's a situation like that, I get it. But if it's just you jumping up because you're trying to see if the grass is growing at all on that side, then once you go over there, you mow the lawn for the year, then you show us how pretty it is.
All right. For those that might listen to this podcast later, you're going to have to jump on YouTube to see this next question. I'm going to pop it up. I'm not going to state the question because this is sort of a teaser of something that the three of us have talked about that may come back during one of our summer sessions. So you see Matt's question there. We're not going to respond back to it because it kind of relates to one of our summer topics. And we will just leave it at that. And I'm going to pivot now, and we're going to hear a word from our sponsors. How about that for a tease?
Making great tasting bourbon requires the perfect combination of ingredients, conditions, and time. The longer it rests, the better it tastes. Revelton Distillery's new single barrel bourbon is made from 80% corn, sourced 100% from Iowa farmers. And unlike mass-produced bourbons, each barrel of Revelton's single barrel bourbon is unique, proofed on when it tastes best. As they like to say, it'll be ready when it's ready. And to ensure the highest standards of quality and flavor, owners Rob and Christy Taylor oversee the production and bottling. Every single barrel. Iowa born, Iowa aged, Iowa bottled. Try the new single barrel bourbon from Iowa's own Revelton Distillery. ReveltonDistillery.com. When energy meets precision, anything is possible.
I'm Carter Hawley, the Chief Energy Officer of the Iowa State Cyclones. I'm full of energy on and off the court, but nothing gives me more energy than helping families find their dream home. And that's where Green Beret Realty comes in. They're more than just realtors. They're a team dedicated to getting things right for you and your family, just like we get it right on the court. Sometimes it takes a team to get the call right. And when you're buying a home, you want a team that makes all the right calls. That is Green Beret Realty. And here's the best part. When you buy or sell a home through Dan at Green Beret Realty and mention this ad, he'll make a donation to the We Will Collective, helping student athletes like me thrive on and off the court.
Green Beret Realty, because getting the call right means everything.
All right, we are back for another on this side of the commercial break for Inside the Storm. Got my Revelton here, and I am not out searching for a home, but I tell you what, now would be a fabulous time with the weather changing. Maybe this weekend could be the time for a lot of us to be out looking for a home. I think the temperatures are supposed to be in the mid-60s. Brent, what do you think about that?
Hey, I'll be outside this weekend, man. Excited about it. Do a little yard work too.
There's a big race. I wouldn't call it a huge race, but there's a nice little run on Saturday that I think several people are going to be participating in. I'll probably see you there. So we've covered basketball. Spring football practice is in full swing. I think they're probably pretty close to wrapping up. Guys, do you take a breather now? We just got through a football season that ended up resulting in a bowl win. We were right in the throes with men's and women's basketball. Do you take a little bit of breather and take a step back, or do you start looking ahead towards the football season?
You talking about like
Football season.
Oh yeah, definitely football season. Yeah,
I'm so ready
go.
for football. Man,
that's it.
so ready. So ready.
So you know who's not looking ahead just yet? Kene Nwangwu, who we talked about last week, he re-signed a new deal with the Jets. Well, Mr. Nwangwu got married this past weekend, so congrats to Kene, who is living the life now. So I want to ask
why he's not looking forward to it then.
Well,
He
because
should
he's
be
married. He's doing other things.
No, I mean, you better get to that season and get that paper up.
Right. That's it. Now you definitely need to fulfill that contract.
Well, and he's the second high-profile former Iowa State player. You know, year before Brock Purdy got married about this time of year too. So
You got to do it in the off season.
Exactly.
Couple months, got to knock it out.
All right, so we're getting through these big seasons. I want to ask you guys some questions here. Would like to know who you felt was which is the most surprising, which was the most disappointing, and which team do you look forward most to next season? So the first one, to you, which was the most surprising that you saw this year? Really, let's focus on football men's basketball, and women's basketball. Of those three teams, for you and Brent, I'll let you go first. Of those three teams, which to you was the most surprising?
Football, women's, and men's basketball. Surprising. I'll say I guess, surprised in the ending of men's basketball. I was surprised. I don't know. I just felt like that season had a lot more potential than we ended up with. So I don't know. Maybe that might be more disappointing. We'll go with
All right.
surprise.
So your most surprising was the finish of the men's basketball.
Yeah.
Marcus, for you, which of those three teams was the most surprising?
To me, it was football, without a doubt. To start the season on an undefeated streak like that, man, that was a wild ride and extremely enjoyable. I know the men's basketball team, we lost to Auburn early, but, we had a good early, but it wasn't the same as the football season. Like I really enjoyed wearing my Iowa State paraphernalia out in places in the football team because, basketball is big, but in any program, football is a lot bigger, and people like football a little bit more because you only get one game a week, so you get up for that game, and a lot more people watch it. So for me, it's definitely football.
Why am I not surprised by both of your flips on these? Because Marcus is the basketball player that loves football. Brent, you're the football player that loves basketball, and your answers aligned with that. It's amazing.
Hey, that's it speaks to the truth of it all, man.
That's it.
Well, and I would tend to agree, with both of you. The football, that Big 12 championship game in the run up to it, and we sort of had that blip where we struggled in those 2 or 3 games leading into it, and then we make the Big 12 championship game. That was pretty cool to be able to do. And then to be able to we didn't just beat a bad team or a mediocre team. We beat an ACC top team in Miami who comes in with a lot of credentials. They're Heisman Trophy winner. I mean, that was a pretty big deal to finish out that way. And to see the Pop-Tart guy go down, that was pretty cool. And the men's basketball team, they were so fun to watch. We got up to number 2.
Right.
Boy, I was out there just beating my chest at work and be able to wear Cyclone gear most of the winter. That was pretty cool for nearly a month. Number 2, that was awesome. So, reverse that question: of those 3, football, men's basketball, women's basketball, which team was the most disappointing in your eyes? Marcus, I'll let you go first this time.
I think to me the most disappointing probably was the women's team. And not in a negative way or anything like that. I don't think that season went as well as we expected, even Coach Finley expected, because, we had a lot more talent than, sometimes I know we ran into a lot of hard foes early in the beginning, but we've always played against some hard foes. And I just thought coming from the season we had the year before, the run that we made in the tournament, I was excited about the women. We were ranked, pretty high at the beginning of the season. So I was looking forward to them to have a little better season than they had. Unfortunately, that didn't happen. But I know Coach is definitely the GOAT of Iowa State athletics, and I know he's going to change that around.
Yeah, we may have been a bit overrated in retrospect.
Yeah.
It's easier to say that at the end of the season, but coming in, there were a lot of aspirations for that women's team, and you're right, that game against Stanford in their own gym really left you feeling like we're going in the right direction. This is going to be a really good team next year. So I can totally see where you're coming from. What about you, Brent? The most disappointing.
I second that. I mean, that was kind of going to be my same answer. I think we kind of all agree, man. Just one of those I think the anticipation and expectations that everybody kind of put on them, for us to finish the way we did, I just think that was, wasn't quite what we expected. However, we got the best coach in the business to make a quick change. So
no takers on the men's team. I think that there were a lot of aspirations for that squad as well coming in. Again, shot up to number 2 in the nation and just fell flat that last half. Those last 10 games or so, really an average team.
I think for the men's team, we expected them to be as good as they were, and they, surpassed that early on in the season. But it's a long season. We fell flat a couple games, and then it started to mellow out to being okay. I figure where we at. Yes, it was a little disappointing because I felt this team should have been as good as Houston. And I've said that over and over on the pod, but unfortunately it didn't happen. We had some injuries. Guys went down. Guys with battling injuries all year. But to not reach that pinnacle, it was disappointing. But I just think that the women's were a little bit more disappointing to me.
We were so good for that period of time, though. That men's team was so good when they were healthy. Whew. They were a Final Four team playing when they were healthy.
Oh, yeah.
Unless K-State comes into the building. That one that pissed me off.
Yeah. All right. So, of the three, which team do you look forward to seeing next season based upon end of this season play or just the talent that's there coming back? Of those three, football, men's basketball, women's basketball, which of those three do you really look forward to next season?
I'm definitely looking for football. The excitement, seeing how I think I talked about this last year with the confidence in Rocco, like prior to the season, and seeing, how he's still growing and watching the maturity of the guys. And this is all just social media watching, but the guys are moving a little different. The confidence is up, and Campbell's got everything kind of ticking in the right direction. So for us to go on a run like we did last year, I'm excited to see what happens. This new year with a couple new faces and some more new things going on. So.
Hey, Brent, you bring up a good point about confidence. That's something we don't talk a lot about that probably should be talked more about. What does that do for a team when you're going through the grind of the off season like this and things are different than when you're in the week-to-week training? What does that do for a team during the off season?
I think that's a lot of the off season is where your foundation is built. So I think creating that space of like, oh no, we really are who they say we are. I think that just allows a team as a unit to get, to work out harder, to compete even more so. So all we're doing now is sharpening that iron week in and week out so that we can eventually let all of this out against somebody. But it's a huge pillar to success, man. That's a major piece of the foundation. If you got a confident team, let's be honest, like Bama is usually they used to be the most athletic team. They could just roll their helmet out and beat anybody, right? But that's the era of confidence that came with it. Like, shit, we're Bama. Now you kind of see, we got nothing to look over. You know what I'm saying? You can't run over us. Like, we'll take out SEC teams, ACC teams. So, like, now the levels are being raised, so we don't back down like we used to. So that changes things heading into the season.
And I think the new video boards will be installed in Jack Trice Stadium. Looking forward to that. I was up there visiting my son a couple weekends ago, and I drove by. It looked like in the lots, maybe they were there last year, maybe they weren't, but it looks like that there's been some new cell towers installed throughout the parking lot, which I think would be huge during game days. Because if you walked around during tailgate, you can't get any signal. It's awful. So
I tried to find my daughter for 2 hours on one of them games. Literally just happened to walk by her. I was like, oh, shit, there you are. They're trying to find you because we were texting and they weren't going through. I was like, oh, hey.
Didn't that happen to us? Weren't we looking? I think we were supposed to meet up with Shipley or something, and we were all trying to connect and couldn't figure it out.
Man, it's terrible.
All right.
That sucks.
Marcus, what about you? The team that you're most looking forward to seeing next season?
I think I'm most looking forward to the ladies rebounding. You know, again, of the three, you know, the football team, exciting year, won a bowl game. The men's team, you know, played extremely well at the beginning of the season, all throughout the season. Didn't win the Big 12 tournament, but, you know, won game in the NCAA tournament, you know, didn't go as far as we were hoped as well, but we also understand shorthand and things like that. I just think that our women's, from what I'm used to seeing from them and what we're used to seeing from them, I just think they should have had a better season. And so to rebound from that type season, to understand, you know, the core nucleus is still here, bringing in some more ladies and to help out and getting back at it. So I think that's the team that I'm more, you know, excited to see.
Well, and we've got now 2 McDonald's All-Americans on that team, and those talented freshmen are now upperclassmen.
Right.
That have played a lot of games. It's not like they sat and they didn't really get a chance to play. They're seasoned veterans as juniors. You're right. That's going to be a fun team to watch. Mm-hmm. Can't wait for season tickets sales to come out because I'm signing back up again.
Well, good.
All right, so just want to remind everybody as we close the show out, we're about to go. Normally we would go on a summer hiatus. We're not doing that this year. We're actually going to shift to a bi-weekly schedule. So the shows may be a little bit different. We've teased a little bit about some of the things that we want to be able to bring up and talk a little bit about. And so looking forward to that. I don't know, has Chris put out any of the news about you two just yet?
We don't know what that guy's doing.
Okay. So we're waiting for that. We'll let him do that because he's the boss and we'll let him cover all that. But there will be some news coming out about you guys that I think is very exciting. Sounds very cool. And if you haven't had a chance to get out to see Brent at Coach's Kolaches in Urbandale, I wrote this down so I can make sure. 2777 100th Street in Urbandale. Brent, I need to get out there myself. I've been not very good about that. So, got any deals coming up this weekend?
If you're a farmer's market guy, that's about to kick off in May. So,
okay,
get every one of those.
So every farmer's market, and then in the store this weekend, or even this week, because you open like a dark 30 during the week, right?
Yeah, pretty much, man. I'm up at 3. I'm getting slanging Kolaches at 6.
So you're
somebody got to do it, man.
Are you just going to stay awake all night, or are you going to try to get some Z's?
Oh no, I go sleep in my chair. When I know I stay up late and I know I got to get up, I can't get into bed. I got to sleep in the chair. That way I can be uncomfortable enough to get up on the first. Otherwise, I get in that bed and I get that sleep. I'm like, nah. I snooze, and next thing I know, at 5 o'clock, I'm like, whoa! Now I'm freaking out.
There he is, fellas. Everyone, he is the Cyclone dad that is now ending up on the couch or on the chair in his lazy boy, just like the rest of us. That's right. All right. Thanks, everyone, for joining us. As always, Brent and Marcus, it's so good to see you guys. And remember, really get out and visit our sponsors. They're the ones that make this possible. Revelton Distilling Company and Green Beret Realty. And, of course, our studio sponsor, Andrew Downs at AKC Marketing. We appreciate everyone joining us tonight. And we'll see you in 2 weeks on In the Side of the Storm. Go Cyclones.
Go Cyclones.
When the scene takes flight, Hilton's rocking, hear the magic call. We rise together, we'll never fall. There's a cyclone brewing on the outskirts tonight. Jack Trice shakes when the team takes flight. Hilton's rocking, hear the magic call. We rise together, we'll never fall. CYCLONES, Cyclone Nation, we